So you found the skeleton. How would you tell people that is you personally? How would you decide?
Well, interesting question. I don't know. I'd have to do some research on this.
Hey everybody, we're live with more. What is it we're doing? Hold on. Are we reading? We're reading the new Power Rangers role-playing game rulebook, right, guys? Is that what we're doing? Because I bought that. Hold on, let me double check the title. Kent Hovind's Damn it. Okay, I guess we're doing this then. Oh, that's a lot less fun. You guys sure you don't want just want an RPG review? Because, ooh, that might be easier on my sanity. But no, I'm here of course with Vishanti, who is
What's up?
my most reliable Kent Hovind reader. Which I don't know why you would want to be that, Vishanti, but thanks.
I consider this a form of penance for having, like, in my mid to late teens and like maybe the first few years of my 20s spreading his propaganda. So this is my way of penance, like self-flagellation.
Yeah. I mean, you don't want to fall under like the wrath of an angry god for having done pro Kent Hovind stuff. Okay. Yeah. Now there has been a question about the title of the question in the poll today. The poll asks KJV get book title ? Because literally, KJV get book title was a citation in this work.
KJV get title.
It was an inline citation. It was just like, wow, that's amazing. So, and also I do want to say right before we get into it, real quickly, we did have a $5 something come in, but I was not here when that happened, and like chat has gone by, and it was not captured in my viewer activity tab in my studio. So I think it was probably Kerry Bronson, since he's the one who usually just stops by, drops $5, and leaves hours beforehand. If it was you, Kerry Bronson, thank you. And if it wasn't you, then thank you to whoever did that. I really appreciate it. Which, by the way, the last Proto Feather single stream fundraising goal was reached. And that video with me with the Proto Feathers has been made, but it'll be a little while till it comes out. So if you want to see it, you can just join the channel or the Patreon for like a $2 or $1 or $5 or whatever. Then you can see it right now. But it is coming. It will be public in probably about a month, because I have about 2 months worth of content just uploaded, ready to go. In case, I ever get sick or something. Because sometimes people get sick.
So the side chat mentioned that Digital Hammurabi's interview with Francesca Stavropoulos just wrapped up, and I actually had to stop watching that interview because I was getting a little frustrated. In true predictable me fashion, she seems to be coming from an extremely culturally Christian skewed background, and yes, I know she is an atheist. I am not saying she's religious. I'm saying that her lens in which she was at least doing the interview material was frustrating, because there was a question whether she wrote a book on the Israelite God's anatomy and whether she consulted outside biblical text, and she said yes, but from the way she phrased it, it made it sound like it was just the Bible and maybe some apocryphal texts. And I'm like, okay, but did you read commentaries from actual Jews? Did you read, stuff where they're like, no, this is a metaphor and it's not a physical thing? And when she wrote a whole book saying that God's physical attributes, and she described his a pole, as someone put it.
Yes. Well.
And yes. And so she was drawing a contrast between the modern idea of if this being, nope, it's metaphor, versus, no, ancient people totally believe their God had a physical form. And I was like, okay, but did you read contemporaneous Hebrew sources for this? Because
apparently not.
It didn't seem that way the way she phrased it.
Yeah.
I'll have to go back and finish it later when I'm more coherent.
All right. Well, let's dive into this, because I want to, at some point, be done reading this dissertation. Because as long as I'm not done, it just looms over me like a storm cloud in the distance, and then every once in a while on Saturday, if I don't have anything else, it just cracks me in the face with lightning, and I would like for that to stop, please. So here we go. All right. Communism also has its roots in evolution.
Out of the gate.
just right immediately. Let me quote some more here from the Impact article 172, Stalin's Brutal Faith. Wonderful. As early as December 12th, 1859, only 2 months after The Origin of Species was published, Frederick Engels wrote to Karl Marx, "Darwin, whom I am just now reading, is splendid." Okay. About a year later, December 19th, 1860, I can't talk, Karl Marx, the father of communism, responded, "During my time of trial these last few weeks, I have read all sorts of things, among others, Darwin's Book of Natural Selection. Although it is developed in the crude English style," thanks Marx, "this is the book which contains the basis in natural history for our view." So, maximum that we can say here is Karl Marx thought that Darwin's ideas were compelling in terms of natural history. But interestingly, Karl Marx wasn't a natural historian. He was a historian of the traditional human sense. He was a pretty bad one, but he was one. To one Ferdinand Lassalle, he wrote on January 16th, 1861, "Darwin's book is very important and serves me as the basis in natural science for the class struggle in history." I mean, okay.
Okay.
Zirkel, that Marx wanted to... There's a... Can't... You accidentally the word.
He accidentally a couple words.
Okay.
Circle that Marx wanted to dedicate Das Kapital to Darwin.
Yeah, okay, great. Good job, Kent. Why bother with having all of the actual requirements of a sentence? My goodness. Pro tip to all the writers out there. You need a subject and a predicate for a sentence. This just has a big subject, and it has a subject and then, like, a random noun phrase that's just in there.
It's
a subordinate clause with no predicate, yeah.
It's too long to make the title of this video like last time.
Well, yeah.
Otherwise, Circle that Marx wanted to dedicate Das Kapital to Darwin would be a good alternate title.
Yes.
Just too long.
Harvard Stephen J. Gould. Of course. Just not even a paragraph, right? Just Harvard's Stephen J. Gould. An intense and modern spokesman for evolution, corroborates that he saw Darwin's copy of Marx's first copy inscribed by Marx, describing himself as a sincere admirer of the English naturalist Darwin, which, by the way, Darwin couldn't have read because most of the pages weren't separated. We did mention this in an earlier episode, but at the time, and actually you can still find books like this, but it's pretty uncommon, but at the time, the leaves in books were just folded over, and so when you printed a book, you printed it on this gigantic, like, long piece of paper. And, you know, it could be more than one of them, depending on the size of the book. But then it was just folded, and then one side was glued in. So to read the book for the first time, you actually had to have a knife and cut through the facing pages so that you could actually separate them. Otherwise, you physically can't read the book because you can't open the pages. Darwin did not open the majority of the pages. So there's an interesting little thing there. Someone credits... Now we're just on to Lenin. Someone credits Vladimir Lenin with the following commentary.
No, wait. Vladimir.
Oh,
Lenin.
It does say Vladimir. Oh my goodness. Vladimir. I don't know who that is. I know who Vladimir Lenin is. So some random guy named Vladimir has been credited. I love this also. Someone credits. So some guy credits some other guy who has a name similar to Lenin with the following commentary on Darwin. Great.
It'd be like on Wikipedia, they would have the inline, who?
Yeah, exactly. Like, someone. Oh, okay.
Okay.
Oh, JS, the Egyptian male fertility god Min, it has an AIG. Yeah, probably a pretty big one. By the way, guys, they copyright claimed another one of my videos, like, about 30 seconds after I uploaded it. Well, after it processed. Yeah, so fun times there.
Well, I will quote David B. 22585 and say that AIG is a bushel of a share of holes.
There you go. Let's see, where was I? So some guy said Darwin put an end to the belief that animal/vegetable species bear no relation to one another except by chance,
That's the wrong bear.
and that they were Look, they don't take off their clothes for no relation. That's what's happening. And they were created by God and are hence immutable. I can't talk. Communism has its roots in evolution. Yeah, again, look, I don't want to go over it every single time we have one of these episodes, but yeah, there's a reason that communist countries early on had such trouble with, say, even growing wheat when they had good soil and tractors and good seed. It's because they rejected Darwinism in favor of Lysenkoism, which said that crops of the same species would have a class consciousness and wouldn't compete with each other for resources. Yet turns out that's not true.
That's not true at all.
Yeah. And as a result, they would do things like just carpet their fields in seeds that were way too closely spaced. Because I don't know if you know this, but when you grow, like, crops, you need to space them out. A few inches, one seed, a few more inches, another seed. No, they were just like seeds upon seeds upon seeds. And yeah, they were competing with each other and they just wouldn't grow because you can't plant seeds that closely. Anyway.
Oh my god. Didn't he start and almost end the paragraph with the same sentence? Communism is its roots in evolution. Wasn't that almost exactly the way he opened that paragraph?
No, it's exactly.
Cool.
That paragraph starts and ends with identical sentences.
Cool.
Yep. Oh, wait, no. It doesn't have also. The difference is at the beginning it has also. Here it doesn't. This is just like, in case you didn't catch my point, communism has its roots in evolution.
Source. Trust me, guys.
Some guy said Vladimir Lenin said so.
God. Someone in the chat said that Vladimir's his RPG character's name.
Guys, if you want to make up like D&D characters based on the names that Kent gets wrong, please let me know about it. I would love that. The effects that evolution has had on our society, just with the three that I've mentioned here, that guy, Stalin, and communism, are incredible.
Dude, wait. That's two people and an
ideology.
Political ideology.
Right.
What?
Yeah.
Stalin, famous for being separate from communism.
Right. Had nothing to do with Marx or communism. That's not a thing, guys.
Godwin's Law. How far are we into this stream?
To be fair, this is still the same Godwin's Law from before. It's not a new one. The human lives that have been lost cannot be calculated. I mean, they can. It's around like 80-something million, more or less. So it can be calculated. Although, again, good luck actually attaching that to evolution. And even if you could, that's an argument from consequences. See,
yeah.
If you go with, I don't have cancer because if I did, I would have to go through really punishing chemotherapy or radiation therapy, and I don't want to, so I don't have cancer. That is not how cancer works. You have cancer or not, regardless of how much it would suck to have it.
Do you realize that you quite literally just described how Val Kilmer views his throat non-cancer?
Yes. Thank you, Christian Science.
Yeah.
Anyway, nor can the money that has been spent fighting communism and Nazism be calculated. I mean, you can just look at like NATO and US budgets. It's not that hard.
Uh-huh.
They're public. Now, exactly what every penny is spent on is not always public because there are black box things, but like, Hawkskull for £2. AIG, that giant gathering of gonorrheal glands. Wow. So I actually have water here, but I'm still going to take a drink because, oof. Yeah.
Today could very well be the day that I'm going to throw it all back to you. Just kidding. I might actually pull out my dad's stash of bourbon and add it to my coffee.
I mean, bourbon coffee sounds nice. I'm actually out of booze right now. I need to go to the grocery store.
Oh no.
I know. Creation versus evolution is an extremely important discussion and debate. We are setting the trap for young people by teaching them evolution in school, We are destroying our own future by presenting this ridiculous doctrine as scientific fact. The effect on society alone is tremendous. Well, you haven't really gone a long way to proving that, but okay. The philosophy...
Well, some guy said a thing.
That's true. Some guy said that Vladimir Lenin...
Vladimir.
Someone said... Okay, guys. If you're writing a dissertation or any other kind of academic work, and the phrase "someone says" appears, you might want to take a step back and reconsider this particular point that you're making and how you're supporting it. Let's see. Oh yeah, and that's 20 points out that the atom bomb had its roots in Einstein's famous equation, and so I guess we should just stop teaching like mass energy equivalence, because atomic bombs are bad. So, must not be true. The philosophy of origins that a person chooses also... Okay, real quick.
What?
You don't choose your beliefs, really. Like, you can't just decide to not believe something that you're currently convinced of just because. New information can come in and you can change your mind, but it's not really voluntary, right? So, it's not like I can just decide, you know what, I'm just going to start believing the Earth is young. That's not how it works. So, you don't really get to choose a philosophy. You are convinced by a philosophy. Anyway, also has an effect on many other decisions he or she makes. I appreciate that Kent is allowing for some gender-neutral language there. Thanks, Kent. Hey, you know, I gotta give him
He'd go back and edit that out.
There's so little to like in this that I gotta give him something, right? The people that are divided...
You do not... You do not, in fact,
Fair enough.
have to give it to him.
I mean, he is a convicted spouse abuser, so yeah. The people that are divided on whether they believe... Oh, wait, no, hold on. Real quick. In case you guys don't know, currently, Cindy Lincoln's house no longer has central heating because her water heater, which it was based on, broke. That water heater had been installed by Kent Hovind and his crew. Turns out it was stolen. So the company that would normally have it on warranty won't service it because Kent Hovind installed a stolen water heater in Cindy Lincoln's home.
And for those of you that also don't know why that would be a big deal, because you think Alabama's like gross jungle all the time. It's really cold right now because there's a winter storm, and it like a week or two ago it was snowing in Montgomery and Auburn. So
yeah, so Cindy has been chopping firewood to burn in her living room fireplace as the only source of heat other than a small electric heater, because Kent couldn't be bothered to actually verify that appliances going into his wife's house weren't just stolen.
I would like to find a way to donate some resources to her, because I have a very special thing about people not having heat in the wintertime.
Yeah, I'll try to get with her and see if there's something we can I think she said that replacing it was going to be a couple grand. I don't know if we can actually raise that, but it's not a great situation. At the very least, maybe she can just buy some pre-cut firewood for a little bit more. Inkboy for €2 says sausage above 2 eggs collected in a sack is AIG. Correct. The people that are divided on whether they believe that abortion is right or wrong are generally divided into the same groups that form over the issue of creation and evolution. No, Kent, they're not.
No, they're not.
They're really not. I know of a lot of people on both sides of both issues that don't have the exact same grouping there.
Well, see, that would be an unwelcome nuance.
Well, yeah, that's true.
Can't have that.
If you guys don't know what that's about, you should check out my Twitter or my community tab. My pinned tweet, actually, is the thing you should check out on that one. If a person believes that we are a creation of God, then of course abortion is wrong. Nope, that doesn't follow. Look,
no.
If you believe in young earth creation, then literally everything is a creation of God. So killing a cow is still killing a creation of God. You have to go further than just it's a creation of God in order to get that abortion is wrong. I'm not going to sit here and have that debate because I'm here to read this stupid dissertation, but I'm just going to point out that isn't right even according to Kent's own logic, right? Because Kent eats meat. Even if he didn't eat meat, he'd eat plants. He might say, "Oh, they're not really alive. They're
He
complicated."
eats eggs.
Yeah.
That could have been a baby chick.
Yeah. So, like, if a person believes evolution is true, that we just evolved with blind chance, then abortion would be fine. Again, note that does not follow.
It's really not. In an entire religion you might have heard of, it's kind of obscure, called Judaism, disagrees with that entire premise.
Yeah. And so here's the thing.
In fact, today is actually Repro Shabbat, where we're talking about, like, across the community, there's like big discussions on reproductive rights and like women's bodily autonomy and stuff. So good timing.
There you go. The abortion issue really needs to be argued on creation versus evolution ground first. No, it doesn't, because you can still take either stance on either one at the same time. The same could be said for many other issues, like euthanasia, drugs, teen sex, homosexuality, etc. My goodness.
Oh my god.
Okay, spoiler alert. Social issues do not depend on your belief about origins. I know pro-LGBTQIA+, there we go, all of them, young earth creationists, and I know homophobic people who accept evolution. That's a thing. Yep. Why don't you take over for a bit?
Sorry. Also, Advil's a drug, so I happen to know his stance on over-the-counter drugs too, though. I can almost quote it word for word.
Oh.
He describes how people take drugs when they're not feeling well. So, you know, if you get a headache, you take Advil or aspirin or whatever. And he'll say, well, if the oil light on your car comes on, you can do one of two things. You can change the oil, or you can cover up the oil light. The oil light is not the problem. The oil light is telling you about the problem. The headache is not the problem, and it's telling you about a problem.
Yeah.
We are not a bunch of chemicals, and the lack of aspirin did not cause your headache.
Wait, no, you're still a bunch of chemicals.
Mm-hmm.
So real quick, for $4.99 from Tyler West, Dapper, did we ever establish that Kent is trying to demonstrate in, what Kent is trying to demonstrate in this dissertation? No. Evolution started with Satan, perhaps? So basically, this is just like a rough draft, and I mean very rough draft, of like the first quarter or so of an just general anti-evolution book that Kent was trying to write. And then he just was like, meh, it's my dissertation now. That's all that happened. Yeah.
And Ugly German Truths says, I get the feeling that Kent needed to go to his diploma mill double wide, as even the most pig-headed evangelical orthodox universities like Liberty or Bob Jones would have laughed this out of the room.
Oh, absolutely. This would get you kicked right out of Bob Jones University. Look, I know people who've gone to Bob Jones University, and while they're completely insane on a lot of things, you still have to do actual proper academic work, like with real citations and following style guidelines and, you know, not just forgetting the main verb of your sentence.
I have to give it to David B22585 once more because, yeah, you shouldn't take aspirin. You should buy my all-natural cyanide seeds.
Yeah, in case you guys don't know, Kent Hovind sells apricot seeds, which metabolize straight to sodium cyanide. What is it? Hydrogen cyanide. I can't remember. Whatever. It's one of the cyanides that kills you. I can't do chemistry, guys. Chemistry is not my thing. Which maybe is one of the reasons why I do not know why Sal thinks that his biochemistry arguments are, like, convincing. Deviantic TV.
That would be something that we need to summon Geo Straber into the chat for,
right?
Because he's a chemistry person.
Deviantic TV, who's been a member for 9 months at the tetrapod level. Thank you very much for being a member. I really appreciate it. Says, AIG, eat Big Donkey Richard with a Godzilla emoji. Take a drink. For those of you who don't know, Skreonk is how you spell the Godzilla roar in comic books.
Yep.
All right, where were we?
Secondly.
Oh, is that how far we got?
Okay. Secondly, I think evolution not only affects our society, it affects our modern science. One of the things that we try to teach students is what is called the scientific method. There are basically 4 steps involved in the scientific method. All right, let's see what they are, Kent.
Well, real quick, Scott Duke for $4.99 says, "Love the series in a go to Speedway just to see a car crash kind of way." Look, man, that's the only reason I've ever gone to a Speedway is to hope to see some kind of crazy car crash. I'm going to admit it. And I appreciate you being here for that reason.
I used to live 45 minutes from Talladega and never went to a race in my life, so I can't relate to that.
Well, I haven't been to many speedways, to be fair. Although, I did once go with a couple who knew one of the NASCAR drivers, so I did get to hang out down in like the pit area between races, which was kind of cool.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
But also, can someone like smack Kent so the needle resets, because there are basically 4 steps involved in the scientific method. There are basically 4 steps in the scientific method.
But this time he ends it with a colon, not a period. Wow.
Much different. Very edit. Wow. Observation, experimentation, classification of data, and conclusion. It is extremely important that scientists learn to use the scientific method, in quotes. Why are you in quotes? Particularly observation and experimentation. They need to learn how to be good scientists. Weird. It's almost like scientists do these things called experiments on samples that they have observed and tested.
Impossible.
It's weird. They must have somehow measured the amount of stuff in a thing and then watched it for a while to see how much is left after a time.
By the way, I'm seeing over almost 40 people who haven't hit like. So if you guys could do me a favor and hit like on this. All right, where were we? We take our science.
We take our science classes and try to teach them the unobservable thing of evolution. Evolution has never been observed in the present. It has never been observed in the past. There is no record of the fossil. There is no record in the fossil record for evolution.
I thought the fossil record didn't exist.
For this doctrine, and it does not belong in science. It is part of a religion. There's no experimentation for evolution. Do an experiment, show me evolution happening.
Oh, that's been done many, many times. The difference is, though, that Kent will just say, well, that's not evolution because it's still a... And then he'll name some gigantically broad taxon, like, it's still a fly. It's like, yeah, that's true, because that's how evolution works. When you start with flies, you're going to get flies. This
morning, I learned, thanks to Casual Geographic, that dogs, domesticated dogs, over the last, I think, 10,000 years or so, evolved muscles in their eyebrows that like move very similar to a human's, so they look very close to infants, like human infants, and they do that specifically to manipulate our emotions. Wolves do not have this. Coyotes do not have that muscle control.
Nice.
Yeah. But I thought evolution is still a dog.
Yeah, it is still a dog because, again, that's how evolution works.
Meanwhile, cats remain unchanged. They expect us to change.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you. Hey, Ness, how you doing?
Hello. Doing fine. Although a bit salty about the news. Like there was like a recent news about nuclear being included in a green taxonomy, and Germany is vehemently against it. But then at the same time, they are begging to put less restrictions on gas because they really need the gas-powered plants for their
electricity. That's dumb.
So that's dumb, yeah.
Is it still Guten Tag, or would be
Anyway, let's continue with the other madness.
Because for me, it's morning time still, technically, but...
Pretty sure it's evening over there, isn't it? Like...
I was going to say...
7 or 8 p.m. over there, Ness?
I'm sorry?
Isn't it like 7 or 8 over there?
It's almost like... how do you say it in English? 30 past 8. 30 minutes past 8.
Yeah, that's definitely evening.
All right. Continue on, please, Vishanti.
Okay. All they have been able to show so far are genetic changes that have been neutral or negative. There has never been an increase in genetic matter or genetic structure.
Duplication, insertion, mutations, both of those increase the genetic matter and thereby the genetic structure. This is a routinely observed phenomenon. You can watch polyploidy happen. That's a doubling, usually, of the genetic matter. This is just beyond dumb.
How does he explain, like, polydactyly and, like, what's the thing where the tumors grow out of your like random parts of a body and it's like teeth and hair?
I know what that thing is.
Teratoma?
I don't remember what it's called.
I don't remember, but yeah.
I think it's a teratoma, right?
I think
Yes,
that might be it.
Pretty sure it's teratoma. Okay. We have developed, for instance, through the fruit fly experiment that went for many years.
The fruit fly experiment. There was only one, guys.
There was only one, and it went for many years, but it's not happening anymore.
Right.
Flies with no eyes, flies with red eyes, flies with rumpled wings, flies with no wings, but never anything but another fly. It was always a fly that was less likely to survive in the wild. How well could a fly that couldn't fly survive?
Imagine that, subjecting organisms to selection pressures that are artificial might make them adapt better for a new environment, but less well for their old environment. It's almost like that's how evolution works.
Almost.
My goodness.
Evolution teaches that things gradually increase. No, it does not. It does not.
Things can decrease just fine. Take a look at island dwarfism.
Take a look at vestigial organs.
Mm-hmm.
Vestigial structures. Like,
it actually says that things can do either.
mm-hmm. And yet there is no experimentation to back it up. Actually, there is, but whatever.
A lot.
Evidence. No one has ever done one experiment to prove any phase of macroevolution.
We've done actual... We've managed to complete macroevolution in laboratories with those fruit flies that Kent's talking about. Because here's the minimum for macroevolution. Did you create two genetically isolated groups of organisms that no longer successfully mate together? Well, then you have a new species. Guess what? That's macroevolution, and we've done it with fruit flies more than once.
Yeah, like one group was I think maltose, the other one was sucrose, maybe, it's like some kind of sugar. And because of the different diet, they had different mating choices, and that's something to do with their gut microbiome. That affected their mating choice because of that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's really neat.
But no experiments. Okay. The effect that evolution has had... I tried to correct the grammar automatically. What's wrong with me? The effect that evolution has on science, I think, is devastating. America is rapidly losing ground in the world market in our science students. We are turning out students that many other countries are able to beat in academic scores and academic knowledge because we waste so much class time and textbook time on this dumb idea of evolution. It cannot be proved. There is no observation.
Hold on. So is Kent implying that other countries teach less evolution and that's why they have better science scores than the USA? Because
irony.
By the way, Carrie Bronson, who's been a member for 10 months at the AMNIO level, thank you very much for your loyalty to being a member. I really appreciate it. Says cecal valves. Also, chapter 1 of Egg Salad is on AO3 now. Here's enough emojis to drink to forget this with... Let's see, Godzilla, Mothra, King Ghidorah, Mothra, and Godzilla. Thank you very much.
Momthra. I love her. She's an angel. Mothra, I mean.
Yes.
In this house, we stand Mothra. Okay. Or Masura.
Oh,
okay,
and Carrie Bronson for $4 sends a super sticker of it looks like a lemon giving a gift to a blueberry. Thank you very much. I appreciate the gift.
Very cute. Blueberry. Okay. I have a weakness for little chibi cartoons, so that's very cute.
That's fair.
It has a tremendous effect on our scientific program. It hinders right thinking. We teach students, hey, you are going to be a scientist. Now, only believe what you can observe. But yet we teach them evolution, which we cannot observe. That is absurd. We waste a tremendous amount of money trying to prove evolution.
No, look, no one is currently trying to prove evolution because you don't need it anymore, right? It's like when the flat earthers were like, how come NASA's not trying to convince me that the Earth is a globe? It's like, because we did that millennia ago. No one cares to do that for you anymore because you're too stupid to figure it out. Evolution was conclusively... right.
Today in NASA's departmental meeting, they're like, well, guys, there's a man named Jeffrey on the internet who wants us to take our entire time to specifically prove the globe Earth to him. So we're going to need to do that here within the next 8 hours. We're going to make overtime, and that's not in the budget.
Yeah. Okay. So it's the same thing like when you hear creationists saying things like, oh, they're just trying to disprove the Bible. No one cares.
They don't care.
I can't say no. I mean, I'm sure there's some anti-theist scientist out there who's just like, ha ha ha, I bet this will disprove the... Someone out there. But as a whole, science does not give a crap to prove or disprove the Bible. It's... No one thinks about it. When some scientist is out there...
Way too busy trying to calibrate the James Webb Telescope and get all the telemetry
Right.
set so that we can actually start receiving data from it.
And then when it shows things that are so far away that we couldn't see them if the universe is young, no one will care that that contradicts your interpretation of the Bible.
Oops.
All right.
Okay.
Ooh, on the trip
Do
to
you
the
want me
moon.
to keep going?
Yeah. You get at least one more page
Okay.
in.
You just like torturing me, making me
Well,
do
I'm
the
gonna
Kent Hovind
do
voice.
Nestlig next. You don't have to do the Ken Hovind voice.
I know.
That's your
Oh,
choice.
do you really want me to read it in my Dutch accent?
Yeah.
Of course we do.
No.
If I do my natural voice plus Kent Hovind.
You know what? I won't do the audience this the benefit, so I will pass. Sorry.
Okay, I guess I'll be next then.
Okay.
Yeah, for the benefit of the audience, I won't make them go through this.
Nest just wants to hear us torture ourselves and laugh.
I mean, I don't blame him.
You're laughing. It's true. Look at that. Okay. On the trip to the moon, they were so concerned that there might be some type of bacteria life on the moon. Did you mean bacterial?
Yeah, he meant bacterial.
They spent extra money to isolate the moon rocks when they got them in the spacecraft.
That's
and then
not
they
two
got them back
sentences,
on
Kent.
Earth.
You can't say so concerned and then just leave it. You have to put apostrophe that. Like, I know that you're pretty averse to run-on sentences, Kent, which, I mean, okay, I guess, good. But, yeah, no, just apostrophe that they spent. Sorry.
The next two sentences just caused the death of several of my brain cells, and I'm angry about it.
Here we go.
They will do the same with all the other planets. They will say, oh, there might be life there. We need to protect these rocks. No, you
Oh my
ignoramus.
goodness.
They do not care about protecting the rocks. They are trying to protect contagions from getting out to the general Earth populace.
Also, another concern
Don't.
is that if you don't take special care to keep the rocks sterile, then you might have them contaminated by Earth life, which might then give false readings of life on other planets that might cause all sorts of, shall we say, sensationalist headlines that then turn out to have been just nonsense. There's a lot of reasons why you might want to keep rocks from other planets and moons and whatnot that you're sending back to Earth very, very sterile.
Well, I mean, there's that leaked documentary, Apollo 18.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna go with that being fiction. One of my biggest things is that,
Oh, it's
unlike the
totally
actual,
real.
well, okay,
Press X to doubt.
here's my thing. If you watch Apollo 18, you'll notice that the spacesuits are very, very baggy and not puffy like they should be if they were on the real moon. So,
But you see, that's just a lie NASA made up so that they could discredit the film.
NASA 18 is actually their only real moon landing. All the other ones were fake.
Yeah, Apollo 18, it was the real one. And, there's totally no reason for those suits to be puffy because #research Apollo 18.
Brian Stevens asks, is Kent doing any work for his fourth PhD? Any ideas what we'll be in? Look, if Kent's getting a fourth PhD, I can almost guarantee you that he's not doing any work to get it. Other than just, like, submitting stuff he's already written and trying to
What happened to the other
coast.
3?
Oh, he just collects fake degrees. Like, some people collect, I don't know, like spoons or
Post stamps.
yeah, or stamps.
Okay. One of the astronauts offered to eat some of the moon dust on the way back to prove that there was no life on it and that it was perfectly sterile. Which one?
Yeah, who did that? And also, even if they did, what does that prove? Like, let's say I take this story seriously, which there's no reason to. The question is just
Okay.
some astronaut offered to eat moon dust. Okay. That's
Okay. Bring back a Mars rock or a Jupiter rock. I'll eat it or lick it. Well, Kent, you're going to have some trouble getting a rock from Jupiter.
my goodness. I want to know how Kent imagines that going. Guys, we landed on Jupiter.
Where
is
did you land?
Wow.
Oh, buddy, I've got some news for
It
you.
is almost as bad. It's almost as bad as Matt Powell saying that the sun burns.
Oh yeah, from the air in
no,
space.
That's
Yeah,
like
like,
damn true.
Yeah, Matt Powell and JM Truth, they should hang out together and talk about how the air in space helps the sun burn because it needs oxygen.
Oh my god.
Okay, this next sentence.
Okay. He'll eat it or lick it. There's a fun thing called Can You Lick This Science? And you guys should it's very cool. You should look at that up later.
Okay, but
There is no life on the other planet.
I love this
Singular.
this implication that the only reason you might not want to lick something or eat it is because it might have like some kind of dangerous life form on it. Some things are just poisonous on their own.
Yeah.
Like if you found like a, I don't know, a deposit of mercury like ore, you know, the ore that we process to get mercury, you probably shouldn't eat that.
I think I have a
didn't.
I think I have a perfect PhD thesis for the cancer of the new PhD. Lickology.
I would go with how much lead-bearing ore do you have to eat before you can't write this dissertation anymore? Let's have Kent do that one.
Just stops.
I
Like,
mean, he can
middle of the
sterilize
sentence.
it all he wants. You know, he can melt it, he can put it through all sorts of radiation chambers to kill anything, and then just how much sterile lead ore can Kent Hovind eat before
Yeah,
he has
because I
to
mean,
stop
it's
writing?
not alive.
Yeah.
Well, it will taste pretty sweet, right? So, because
Yeah,
lead
it'll
is
even
sweet.
taste good.
But don't eat lead. Don't eat it.
Mhm.
No.
Don't take it. It's not good.
There is no life on the other planet. Singular. One other planet.
Yeah.
Just one.
Even
Life
though he's
doesn't
named
evolve.
2 of them.
Just one.
God.
Just one.
Life doesn't evolve. Yes, it does. There is no evidence for evolution, and it wastes a lot of our money because they've got the wrong thinking.
So this
They
whole
thought
thing
the
has just been a
moon was
tangent.
millions of years old, so they put giant landing pads on the spacecraft. They wasted a lot of money because they thought the cosmic dust would be so deep on the moon.
Okay, hold on.
Stop using such basic sentences.
Lunar lander place.
Well, they had plans for what?
This is
But
this
don't
is
you
not
think
a
the
gigantic landing pad here, guys. This is
Yeah.
this is just like, hey, we might land on slightly uneven terrain and we need a little thing there so that if we're a little off kilter, it'll turn a little bit and there you go. And also, look, if the concern had been meters and meters of regolith dust, why didn't they bring snowshoes?
Fake CGI.
Yeah, okay, there you go.
The cosmic dust layer indicated that the moon was only 6,000 or 7,000 years old. We will discuss this in further detail later in the book. Christians need to stand up for what is right. I believe God's word is truth, and that all the real scientific evidence validates it.
Also, that the moon dust layer is an old claim, but I think the thing is that like the moon dust tends to melt upon impacts, and that's why it's not like a cumulative layer.
I
Right?
also believe that there
Oh.
were the estimates of how much was falling on the moon were also higher than was actually true.
All right.
Even, and I remember this like back in the early to mid 2000s, even AIG called him out for using that as a bad argument.
Ooh.
And he just got really mad and ignored them and was like, oh, I don't want to blah, 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 because they had a whole thing on their website about it.
Yeah, AIG
When
and
AIG
CMI
corrects
have...
you.
Yeah, they've been calling out, or they used
Yeah.
to call out Kent, but now they just ignore him because...
Yeah.
Yeah. Kristen Mills says in reference to the lead, with how bad this dissertation is, I wouldn't be surprised if he already hates some. It would explain this.
Yeah.
Kent's old enough that some of those paint chips that he was eating as a kid might have been lead paint.
Ha.
Oh my god.
So, I mean, look, maybe we've got this all wrong, and Kent is actually just a victim of lead paint chips. Because, they're sweet. That's why kids used to eat them. And so maybe he just ate like a whole house worth of lead paint.
Oh.
All right. This is our next chapter, which I think is chapter 4 or something, and we're already on page 76 of 102. I don't think we're getting to the full 15 or 16 chapters, guys. Spoiler alert. Time. What is it, and how old is the Earth? Believe it or not, one of the most important subjects that needs to be addressed in the creation-evolution controversy is the subject of time. How old is the Earth? Is the Earth and the universe 6,000 or 7,000 years old, as the Bible seems to indicate? Or is it billions of years old, as the evolutionists claim? It's billions. If the Earth is not old, if it is only 6,000 or 7,000 years old, as I contend that it is, that ends the argument. There can be there can be a little bit of evolution. But anyway, he says there can be no evolution in such a short time frame. No, there can be, just not as much. Although, interestingly enough, Kent seems to think that kinds also diversified over the after the arc.
well,
So apparently, you can actually fit in way more
yeah.
evolution in 6,000 or 7,000 years than I would expect. So
Yeah, I was just about to point that according to many creationists, like a few hundred years is a pretty good amount of time for a lot of evolution, apparently.
mhm.
For even for proboscideans that only reproduce like once in one
Yeah, in order to
two
actually get
decades.
the known, like, quote unquote post flood proboscidean diversity, you're gonna have to have proboscidean females giving birth to calves of a different species every single time they give birth to get enough species. Which it's
That
just
seems likely.
yeah, right. Imagine if every time a person had a baby, it was a different species.
Seems legit.
Yeah, no problem there.
Yeah.
If a person starts trying to prove the fact that the Earth is only 6,000 or 7,000 years old, the evolutionists will get extremely defensive. I wouldn't call it defensive. I think I would call it bemused. That's your word of the day. Bemused.
And it is not the same as amused.
That is correct. They will bring up different questions such as, what about carbon dating? What about the dinosaurs? What about cavemen? None of those would be my question, but like I guess they're tangential to what my questions would be.
What about the relevant question?
Those are also not excuses, those are explanations.
Right. What about geologic features of the Earth, etc.? Now, there's a question I would ask. How did you get all these layers of things like, chalk beds and evaporite deposits and things that are evidently at least tens of millions of years worth of geology? How'd you do that? Which actually I was asked by a young Earth creationist on South's channel just a few days ago, where I was having a conversation with him and Dr. Dan and Rebecca and Cindy Lincoln. And one of them said, well, what if radiometric dating was just completely wrong? What would you think about the age of the Earth? And I'd say, well, then it would still have to be at least several tens of millions of years old because there's too much geological history that couldn't have happened fast enough for it to be any younger than that. Which is why, before radiometric dating, most estimates of the age of the Earth based on geology were that it was at least several tens of millions of years old and probably at least a few hundred million years old. I will try to answer these questions as well as many others later in this book. You could just answer them, Kent. Okay.
I actually remember the Jackson Wheat talking to one creationist and Jackson asked him about the chalk cliffs of Dover, right? Like how long, why did it, like how can it have accumulated so fast? And they basically said, well, perhaps whirlpools accumulated all the chalk in one place, and that's how it happened.
Whirlpools keep chalk particles suspended.
Why?
In fact, so we'll real quick touch on things like chalk and limestone, because chalk is a kind of limestone. It's primarily made out of the silicate shells of microorganisms, algae, right?
Coccolithophores, I think, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And so they have to float. And one of the ways they float is by staying small enough that Brownian motion is enough that they tend not to settle significantly over time. That keeps them close enough to the sun to actually get things like food. Then, slowly, I mean, they do sink very, very slowly. And to accumulate, the water has to be relatively still. It has to be of a pH that's not going to dissolve the shells. And it has to be warm enough that the community can survive. And when you do this, very slowly, limestone will build up at the bottom of whatever body of water we're talking about. Now, if you try to get that to precipitate out faster, you're going to have to not do it just by rapid flowing water, because that's just going to sweep the limey material away. The only thing you can do is introduce flocculation nuclei. But we don't know of any nuclei that can actually cause flocculation, which is just clumping together of these shells. And we don't have any actual kind of limestone that gives evidence of flocculation in the first place. So, as far as we can tell, it never has happened, and it probably can't happen. So, there you go. Anyway, first we will look at the subject of time. Lack of billions of years is the Achilles heel to evolution. If there isn't a lot of time, the argument is absolutely over. Time is essential to the evolutionist.
You get it. You get the point.
Right? You could move on. Their entire argument is built on the premise that there is plenty of time. How old is Earth? First of all, let's discuss what is time anyway. Why did you need that first sentence then, Kent? Oh my goodness. Time is a measurement that we use as humans here on Earth to measure the rate at which things decay. What? No. Oh my goodness.
No.
Look, okay.
Oh,
I can't.
is
I
he
can't.
going?
I'm
Is
just
he
gonna keep
going to
going.
the entropy thing? Is he going
I
to
think
discuss
so.
the
Yeah.
entropy?
Now,
Alright,
there is an argument to be made that entropy is what gives time its arrow, but that
right.
doesn't mean that that is the thing that we use to measure the rate at which things decay. We use it to measure the rate of all sorts of things that aren't decay. Time is a human element that does not affect God. Okay. It's difficult for us to understand how there can be no time in heaven. How can there be another dimension? What? We tend to think that this is April 28th, 1990, or whatever date it is. January 29th, 2022, Kent. Just in heaven. This is the most common mistake people make when thinking about God. Remember when this was about time and not about God? God is not limited by time. There is no time at all in heaven. God is the same yesterday, today, and forever because he is in a different dimension than we are. Right away, someone will say, now that just doesn't make sense. Everything is affected by time. But careful with statements like that. You are trying to put human limitations on God. God does not have any human limitations. We are the ones locked in time and space, not God. Heaven and eternity are not things we can comprehend while we are locked in flesh. An example of this would be the story where Paul was stoned to death outside the city of Lystra. Also, I want to point out that traditionally, Christian theology is not nearly this dualistic, where the flesh is evil and the spirit is good. That was actually pretty frequently condemned as a heresy traditionally in Christian thought. So maybe Kent should cool it with the extreme dualism. I don't know.
So I have a question about like if there is no time in heaven, then when you get to heaven, you don't have to wait for everyone else to come to heaven, or like how does that work? Do you have to wait until
I don't
all
know.
your loved ones?
Well, I guess if there's no time, then no.
Right.
Because what would waiting mean if there isn't any time? I guess you get there and then you were always there.
Yeah.
I don't know. Look, the idea of the Christian afterlife being that you die, then you shed your mortal coil, and then go to heaven forever is also a pretty recent innovation in a fairly small subsect of Christianity.
Yup.
Paul went to heaven where he got a foretaste of eternity. He saw heaven! Underlined and 3 exclamation points, because remember, this is a sober academic paper that's no nonsense and you should be taking very seriously. God said, I'm sorry, Paul, you must go back down to earth. I'm not done with you yet. I feel like that is not a direct quotation from the Bible.
Nope.
But hey, you know what? KJV get book title. Just saying.
KJV get title. Yeah.
So Paul went back down as they were dragging his body out of the city to throw it on the garbage heap. He crawled into that body again and arose from the dead. He said, 14 years later, I knew a man in Christ above 14 years ago. Whether in the body or whether out of the body, I cannot tell. God knoweth. Such as one caught up to the third heaven. 2 Corinthians 12:2. Well, at least we actually get a proper citation, although it doesn't give us the translation. We know it's the KJV. Just in case it ever comes up, if you're going to cite the Bible, you should cite the translation or the manuscript or whatever it is you're using. So, if you're using like a Westcott Hort majority text Greek New Testament, you should cite that. Or if you're using like, a copy of the Masoretic text published by some publishing house, you should cite that. Anyway, at least we do get the basic citation. He said that
Hold on. Verbal Beat asks, why are the cliffs of Dover exposed?
Erosion, uplift. That's basically why cliffs get exposed ever. Erosion and uplift. He said that he saw things that were not lawful for him to utter. I believe that what happened was that he saw things he could not describe to his listening audience because they were still bound in their human bodies. Well, then it wasn't that they were unlawful; it's that he was incapable of expressing it.
Yeah.
That's.
Or he just saw a big orgy and was just like, "Oh, can't tell him that."
I can't say that. But the thing is, like, Kent is implying that it's impossible. It's like, it's not that it's unlawful for you to fly by flapping your arms. No one needs to make that law. You just can't. So, oh well. If you were talking to a blind man and you were going to try to explain to him different colors of the rainbow, you would be wasting your time. He cannot understand the differences. You cannot explain sounds or music to a person who has been deaf all of his life. Well, you can give a
Actually, you
scientific,
can.
physical description of like the actual phenomenon that's happening. Now, that won't give them the same sensory
Actually.
experience, but
There is in our corner of the music world, a deaf percussionist who is famously deaf and plays barefoot so that she can feel the vibrations of like the music that she's playing.
interesting.
And she
Oh,
is
we-
quite
we
well
were
known
all-
for being a very skilled like marimba player, and yeah, she understands what sound is. She just like doesn't
Well,
have
that's
the
another-
same capability
That's
to
another
hear it
important thing.
that we do.
Humans perceive sound through ways other than just their ears.
Yeah.
If you've ever had that rumbling feeling when there was very loud bass in, like, say, a movie or something, yeah, that's you perceiving sound, not with your ears. Deaf people will still feel that.
Infrasound.
Yeah. We call those let's see. We call those the five senses. What, the human mind? Oh, sorry. There are 5 entrances into the human mind. We call those the 5 senses. Weird way to put that. We think that God is limited to those 5. Who does?
Oh, we have a follow-up question from Vernal B. What uplifted the Dove Cliff? Was it the creation of the Alps?
So I actually don't know for certain in that case.
Right.
I do know that the area is still uplifting as a result of the retreat of glaciers from the last glacial maximum. So maybe that's part of it. I don't actually know. Sorry. All right, here we go. Where was I? So I don't know who thinks that God is limited to 5 human senses. I don't know of any person who believes in God who would say that, but okay. There may be thousands or millions of things beyond our comprehension. Okay. To say that it is 1990 in heaven is to put human limitations on God. I think that is a very foolish thing to do. Ken, you're supposed to be telling us how old the Earth is and how you know that. No matter how true it is or false it is that there's no time for God, that could still leave us with a billions of years old universe. In fact, I think that makes it more likely, because then it doesn't make sense for God to be like sitting around waiting. It's all one moment to him, so what difference does it make if it's billions or thousands? Like, it's irrelevant.
I'm just reading the first lines of the next paragraph, which I find really funny.
Also, I would like to publicly express my jealousy and also amazement that Christopher Canadic Atheist got to play with Evelyn Glennie, because holy crap, she
That's
is a
really
legend.
cool.
That's really freaking cool.
Wow.
Yeah.
What time is it in heaven? Why do we need another paragraph of this? Let's imagine that you are in a helicopter above the Grand Canyon. As you hover up there, we'll imagine that you have the capacity to hover for days at a time. Okay, whatever. You notice through your telescope that some people are launching a raft at the beginning of the canyon. About 30 minutes later, another group of people launch a raft. 30 minutes later, a third group of people launch a raft. Every 30 minutes, a new group of people starts their journey through the Grand Canyon on a raft. None of these groups can see each other because of the twists and bends in the river as it goes through the canyon. They cannot see the group of people in front of them or behind them. As far as they're concerned, they're all alone. Aww. However, you and your helicopter are able to see all of the groups at the same time. You can see the one at the beginning of the race, the one that left 4 days ago. You can see the group that is now just leaving.
How is this relevant to the age of the Earth?
It's not. Each of
Can you imagine Kent Hovind trying to explain general relativity?
Oh my goodness. I've seen Kent Hovind try to explain the globe, and he can't even do that. So it just devolved very quickly into calling flat earthers names, which, I mean, fair, but also you got to do that after you demonstrate the globe. Each one of the groups has a different perspective of the canyon. Each one of them sees a different section of the canyon. They are locked into position. No, they're going down the river, you idiot. They cannot decide to jump ahead 50 miles or to jump back 50 miles. Okay, that's true. They have to go with the flow, which means they're not locked in place. Got it. So to speak. You are in the same position here on Earth as far as time goes. We are locked into 1991 right now. Apparently, It took him
Oh, well,
almost a year.
I haven't noticed.
The year flipped over during his writing of this, is what I'm getting from that.
We were in 1991, and then COVID happened.
My goodness. We will be here for a year, but then we will be blocked into 1992. We cannot speed it up or slow it down, regardless of what we do. Actually, you can slow it down. There are lots of ways to slow it down, because relativity is a thing. However,
approach a black hole. That's a real good way to do it.
There you go.
I mean, I don't think you want to, but you can.
Yeah, I mean, I imagine at certain points in Earth's orbit, it's near. Actually, I know for a fact that sometimes it's near or farther away from the black hole at the center of the galaxy. So we definitely approach black holes sometimes in a very non-significant
Minuscule
way.
way.
Yes.
Yeah.
God is not in our time with us.
I would like to quote Tyler West. Why are there twists and bends in a river that was formed in 2 weeks?
Remember that switchback in the Grand Canyon? Weird. God is not in our time. He is above time. God is the one in the helicopter, so to speak. He can see the beginning and end and the middle all simultaneously. Great. He is absolutely beyond our comprehension. We don't understand that at all, but by faith, we have to believe that because God revealed himself to us as being outside of time, he is omniscient, knows all things. He is omnipresent, present everywhere at all times. God could right now, from his vantage point in heaven, see Adam and Eve in the garden. He could see the end of the world, or see Christ on the cross.
I can't stop laughing. He's omnipresent everywhere and at all times. That's exactly what omnipresent means.
Yep. I mean, thanks for the definition, I guess. He could see the end of the world, or see Christ on the cross, or any of the historical events between this roughly 6,000-year history of the Earth. To say that God is locked into time is a serious mistake that some people need to avoid. Okay, but Kent, you're supposed to be...
Yep.
Let's scroll up. What was the title of this chapter?
Can we go back to the question?
Oh, here was this.
How old is you?
Time, what is it? Haven't answered that. Haven't even tried. And how old is the Earth? Again, haven't even tried to answer that. So, great. Let's see. Oh, I scrolled up so far. All right, Vishanti, I'm tossing it over to you.
Although I may be giving him too much credit. Oh, I probably am. But by describing the time as a river that is fixed, he's almost like describing time as tenseless. Basically.
Yeah. Well, I think
of course, accidentally probably.
I think from his standpoint, he would say that like God is seeing time as tenseless, and everything is happening, has happened, and will happen all at the same time. So why bother with tenses? But then again, I don't know. I'm not exactly. I
mean, and that's one of those like really fun brain-breaking things to talk about when you're really high or something, where it's like, oh my god, if time travel were possible, that means that the future's already happened to get there. Like, dude, and the past is still happening, because otherwise, how could you go there?
Yeah.
I am very smart.
All right. You ready to start with someone once asked me?
Somebody once asked me the question, what did God do for all those billions of years before he made the earth? Oh, the questions start coming and they don't stop coming and they don't stop coming and they don't stop coming. I've devolved into insanity because of how terrible this dissertation is.
I don't blame you.
The question indicates the faulty logic, that God is locked into time like we are. You must avoid that if you are to understand anything about God. God created time. He started it about 6,000 years ago, and we'll let it run until he's finished with whatever it is he wants to do. When we get to heaven, there will be no time.
Great. Who cares, Kent? Just get to a point.
We will not be in heaven.
I know I have no time right now, so I won't have time in heaven too.
I think Kent Hovind, when he was writing this, was like, you know what? Since there's no time in heaven, I don't need to I can just take my time with getting to the point, because what difference does it make if people are waiting for me to say anything relevant to the actual title of this chapter? There's no time. I can just write an infinite amount of screed about time without ever answering a question.
We will not be in heaven for billions of years. There will not be any years at all. There are many songs that allude to time in heaven. For instance, when we've been there 10,000 years. I'm sorry, but we will not be there for 10,000 years. We will be there forever, which is a totally new dimension. It's not a new.
What does it even mean?
I don't even know. Oh, hey, we get
I cannot explain it. Ooh, I cannot explain it. Just because I don't understand it.
That answers my question.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
I just have to believe it. I do know that it says in 1 Corinthians 2:9 that God has things that we are not capable of understanding, things that are beyond our comprehension. There are new things for us to learn. Right now, we are not able to understand what heaven is like because of our limitations. Figure not named.
It just exists.
They're
What do we have here as a picture or an image for what?
I mean,
exactly?
It's different frequency of sine wave, I guess.
I think it's maybe the wavelengths of light, photons, or something like infrared to
maybe
gamma.
It's
why is it
real
here?
helpful in a black and white, Xerox copy. But
well, to be fair, I imagine that the initial copy probably was clear, and this is probably like been Xeroxed several times.
He's talking about the image in the next page, I think. Yes.
Oh,
For
okay.
instance, look at the illustration of the electromagnetic spectrum. The section that we can see with our eyes we call the color range, which he doesn't have delineated in any way.
I'm going to say he might have had that in a version that I could actually see. But this has just been Xeroxed.
That, but I don't want to give him credit for that.
Okay, I'm just saying we can't say for certain that this quality represents the quality of the initial text, that he was actually like printed or whatever.
Oh my god, I'm gonna scream. This section that we can see with our eyes we call the color range. These are basically the 6 colors of the rainbow: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, and violet. What happened to indigo, Kent?
Yeah. Also, violet, not technically a color there. That's what happens when red from one end of a new rainbow starts to mix with the dark blue or indigo at the other end. Yeah.
The spectrum goes beyond that in both directions forever. On the red side of the scale, it goes down to infrared. You and I cannot see infrared with our eyes. It doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. It just means that we can't see it. Some animals can.
That's true.
We cannot see ultraviolet. Oh, I skipped a sentence. The spectrum goes beyond violet to ultraviolet.
You know the theme from Sandlot? Forever.
Ever. We cannot see ultraviolet. We have a limited receptor, our eye. It is able to pick up just this brief range of colors from red to violet. Suppose that God decided to give us eyes that would be able to see the entire magnetic spectrum. Did he mean electromagnetic spectrum?
Yes, he did.
We then could see radio waves, radar, television, or microwaves. I don't mean pick them up with an instrument. I mean actually see them with our eye. Well, Kent, here's a fun fact. If you want an animal that's probably capable of doing that, go catch a mantis shrimp.
Yeah, they can see into the infrared and the near ultraviolet.
Like, we have binocular vision, they have sexnocular vision.
Sexy.
And to quote Z. Frank, imagine a color that you can't even imagine. I'll do that 6 more times. And that is how a mantis shrimp do.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't know what is going to happen or not, but it could be that in heaven there will be brand new colors. I don't mean brand new shades or combinations of these colors that we're used to. I mean brand new colors. If I went to heaven for 5 minutes, there's no time in heaven, Kent.
Kent arrives in the heaven and he sees a rainbow flag.
Oh.
Triggered. And saw brand new colors and came back down to earth, and you said, Kent, where have you been? And I would say, well, I've been to heaven for 5 minutes. You can't say that because you just told us in 300,000 paragraphs that there was no time in heaven. He would say, what's it like? I would say, I can't explain it to you. Well, he can't explain it to us, and he hasn't even been to heaven, so you would think something was wrong, just like I'm sure people thought Paul was crazy after he came back down from heaven and said, I saw things that is not lawful for a man to utter. We need to get a new set of eyes and a new set of ears. We need new sensory organs. If we're to understand everything that God has for us, God has given us very limited capacities down here on earth. We can understand and see a few things, but God is by no means limited by our 5 senses and their limited range. As I was thinking on this subject, I wrote a poem to try to explain this before I'm an atheist.
The infamous poem.
Here we go. Okay, let me just take a sip of my coffee real quick.
Yeah, I'm gonna take a sip of water.
This requires me actually putting in some effort. Okay. It's gonna be an iambic pentameter, isn't it? It's gonna rhyme every 2 stanzas.
Well, that's fine. I don't see any stanza breaks, so good luck.
Okay, well, every other, it's gonna be in like AA, BB, CC form. I know it is. Okay, here we go. 2 blind men argued well into the night about the great question, is there really sight? Said one to the other, and quite fervently, there cannot be colors, or else we could see. So take red and green and blue off the list. If I cannot see them, they must no exist. A crazy man told me the sky is bright blue. I listened intently, but I caught no clue of anything out there to alter my mind. I'm not deaf, you know. I hear perfectly fine.
Which also not a rhyme.
no.
My God. Be quiet and listen. And then how will you know that colors aren't real? How dare they say so? They tell me that grass is some sort of green. It looks like the rest of the world that I've seen. It tastes a lot different than jelly or cheese. If I smell it too long, it sure makes me sneeze. It feels a lot different than ice cream or snow. But to say that it's green, I have to say no. I will not believe it until I have seen there isn't a difference twixt red, blue, or green. So the men argued with all of their might, and I couldn't show them that they were not right. They could not see colors because they're blind. They re-blind. But I couldn't get the truth in their mind until they were given the Greek gift of sight. Never, not ever, will they ever see the light. Oh, we do have another stanza.
Oh, yes. Does that mean the next stanza is just as long?
Two atheists argued on university sod about the great question, is there a God? Said one to the other, and quite fervently, there can't be a God or else we could see. So take that old Bible and God off the list. If I cannot see him, he must no exist. Is he Scottish? If I can't see him, he must no exist.
So,
Be quiet.
be quiet and listen. That's the next line.
Be quiet and listen, then you will know God is not real. How dare they say so? A crazy man told me God lives up in heaven. I used to believe that when I was just 7. But now that I'm older and wiser, you see, I will not believe it. You can't prove it to me. I cannot sense God with sight, taste, or smell. You should have used a comma. 2 commas.
Ken's sort of iffy with commas overall.
I do not believe in heaven or hell. I've never heard God or felt him at all. If he's really up there, I wish he would call. I said, listen, fellows, you're spiritually blind. You've only 5 entrances into your mind. That limits your input. I wish you could see. You can't fathom God or eternity. There are lots of things that really are real. It doesn't disprove God because you can't feel. So you two can argue the rest of the night. There's no way to show you that you are not right. When you get to heaven or hell, if you please, you'll understand God as you fall on your knees. I wish that you could see him or hear him somehow, but that isn't possible where you are now. To deny his existence is really absurd. You'll have to believe him and trust in his word.
Well, he finished strong, at least.
Kind of. I just can't believe that there's that long. I knew there was a poem in here, right? Like, that's part of the lore of the Kent Hovind dissertation. I didn't know it was going to be this bad.
The best line was with the cheese.
Yeah,
the best line was with the
cheese.
My goodness.
Cheese.
Yeah. The cheese stands alone. The cheese stands alone.
Oh, Dr. Joel Duff is here. Which, by the way, guys, go subscribe to Dr. Joel Duff's channel. He has a lot of really cool stuff. One of my favorite things is every week he puts out a This Week in Young Earth Creationism. It's great. I watch it usually within a couple hours of it coming out. It's always excellent.
Do you watch it?
Yeah.
Religiously?
I do, actually. Yes, I watch it religiously. Dr. Joel Duff's This Week in Creationism is my new religion. That's it. I'm giving up the teachings of Kalis for the teachings of Dr. Joel Duff.
Dishonor.
But yeah, he says, I've looked at parts of this in the past, but I had forgotten just how utterly awful this is. Dr. Duff, if this is your first time dropping into this series, my goodness, you've missed some pretty awful stuff. It is far worse than this. Just have to say, one of his citations, once again, was KJV, get book title.
KJV, get title.
Yeah. Just amazing. Was that worse than Vogon poetry, asks Carrie Bronson. I'm not sure it wasn't Vogon poetry.
Ugh. Oh, God.
Okay. I'll take over. You read an entire poem?
Again, what chapter are we on? I forgot.
The time, what is it, and how old is the Earth? Yeah, that's the title of this chapter that we're reading here. In case anyone forgot. I want to
finish at least this one semi-thought.
Okay.
That is the way I see it. We have to admit by faith that God exists because we are limited in our senses. A blind person believes by faith that there are colors. They do not. Oh my God. He's never seen them. Some people lose their sight over time, but don't tell Kent.
That's unwelcome nuance.
That's unwelcome nuance.
That's my new favorite phrase.
but he believes by faith that they exist because everyone has told him about them. I believe by faith that there is a God. I believe that there is no time in heaven.
People will ask, was the God before the where was God before the creation? How long did God wait before the Garden of Eden, before he created man? Well, you were back at the same argument. Oh my goodness. We need more paragraphs of
God
this.
had no time.
God didn't wait any time at all. There wasn't any time, and I can't explain any other way than to say that's the way it is. My goodness. He's giving another example. Can't just stop. You don't have to. It's explained like this. Once upon a time, there was a time when there was no time. God didn't wait a long time before creating Adam and Eve. He started time when he created the earth. To answer the question, what did God do for billions of years? There weren't billions of years before you or after the creation. After this is over, we will go back to a different dimension beyond our current capacity to understand, called eternity. Kent, we've already covered it. My goodness. Oh, finally, back to the question, how old is the earth?
After that many pages.
The damn point of the chapter.
Back to the question.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, this is, my brain is gonna be done after this.
Also, excellent writing. Back to the question.
Back to the question at hand.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Kent, you've got to come with me. We've got to go back. Back where, Doc? Back to the question. According to the Bible, times given in the Bible times? It's a
Did
weird
you
phrase.
accidentally a word again?
Maybe. According to the Bible times given in Genesis 5:11 and the chronologies given in many other places in the Bible, the date of creation was about 4000 BC. By adding
Actually, that would be according to Bishop Usher, whose work
Yeah.
he, pivots off of, but whatever.
but doesn't like to say that that's what he's doing.
Yeah.
He likes to be like, oh, no, Bishop Usher, I'm just going to use all that work, though. It's like, hey, there's just Kent just like leaning over Bishop Usher's desk. He's like, hey, man.
Is an evil, satanic, pagan conspiracy that started Islam, but I'm going to use Bishop Usher's work.
Yeah, and he's just sitting there leaning over his desk like, hey, man, can I use your work? Well, I'll change it up a little bit.
Your homework. Yeah.
I'll change it just so it doesn't look too obvious. By adding up the fact that Adam was 130 years old when Seth was born, and how old Seth was when his son was born. Oh, thanks, Windows, for making random sounds. We can come up with a fairly accurate time. That would be about 6,000 years ago. I'm not one of these fellows that says that Adam was created on April 7th at 4 p.m. I don't know the exact date. I would say that 4000 BC is probably within a couple hundred of years. Or a couple hundred of... Yeah, okay. That's
couple of hundred of years.
Yeah, that's weird. Whatever. I contend that the Earth is 6,000 or 7,000 years old. There may be some slight error. For instance, was Adam 130 and a half years old when Seth was born? Are the dates rounded off to the nearest year? Was it on his birthday when his son was born? Did they use a year like us? Did they use a solar year, 365 and a quarter days? Did they use the Hebrew calendar, 360 days?
Oh, Kent.
Do you think Kent knows that the Hebrew religious calendar has ways to come back into sync with the solar calendar so it doesn't just continually drift off course?
He doesn't know that it's a lunisolar calendar, and he definitely doesn't know that they're elite months.
Yeah.
Definitely does not know that. And he doesn't know that before the expulsion from Palestine that, people would go out and sight the crescent moon, and that's when your new month would start. So sometimes it was 29 days, sometimes it was about 31. It could vary. But, that's unwelcome nuance.
Exactly, that's unwelcome nuance. There are some slight possibilities for some minor changes, but nothing that accounts for billions of years. There is no question that the Bible clearly teaches that the Earth is young. Almost all Bible scholars of the past were persuaded the Earth was young. Wrong.
No,
that's not true. Now,
even
some of them were.
Even in Peter, it says that people are willingly ignorant of the fact that the Earth is of old.
Yeah, and look, if you look into ancient, old Christian and Jewish commentaries into Genesis, they tend not to say that basically you can't really tell how old the Earth is just based on reading this text.
And that's not the focus of the whole thing anyway. The point of the creation story is not how geologically old is the planet.
Right. So TGG, I'm not going to try and pronounce that as a syllable, says, I'm not going to try. Is Dapper a VTuber? Well, I mean, I have a virtual avatar, but I can't control it in live time, or live on air, so I don't know. It's up to you guys. I'm not going to make a claim either way. Let's see. What happened? Why did Christians abandon the teaching that the Earth is only 6,000 years old? They didn't.
Did
Kent.
not.
They
They
didn't.
adopted it recently.
Yeah. Look, you can find some quote unquote young Earth people in the Christian history, but they're not the dominant thing. They've never been the universal position of Christianity. Same thing with Judaism, right? Like turns out religions are diverse. That's a thing.
Yeah.
Many of the Christians, in the late 1800s, after Darwin's book *The Origin of Species* came out, began to try to compare the historic position of the church to adjust to Darwin's theory. Yeah, they tried to blend the evolutionary theory with the Bible. They began to say that maybe there were billions of years in the Bible. Several compromise positions were created. One of these is known as the gap theory. It tried to insert a gap between Genesis 1:1 and Genesis 1:2. I believed the gap theory for quite some time. I'm assuming that's what it means.
Also, it wasn't that Christians tried to like compromise. It was that they realized that science was disproving some of their beliefs, and a sect of them decided, well, we don't want to pay attention to science because our, opinions about this religious text that we definitely read in the original language you guys sourced, trust me. So they didn't like that. So unwelcome nuance, and they were just like, well, we're just going to ignore it.
Yeah. All right. I had a Schofield Bible as a new Christian. It is an excellent Bible, but his notes, I guess that means Schofield's notes, are not inspired. And Jen Flurk puts a sticker in for 5 beaver bucks of a lemon waving and a blueberry waving. Thank you very much for that generous super sticker. The super stickers are adorable.
The blueberry might be on like a blanket. Maybe they're at the beach.
Yeah, I think so. And the lemon seems to be on some kind of a chair. Maybe it's a beanbag.
They're at the beach. This is what I believe.
Okay, that's fair. Look, there are sunglasses, so that helps.
Yep. Okay, I have to tell you a funny story when he's talking about the notes. I remember this one time I was at a Bible study in high school, and we somehow got to talking about like the flood or something. It was in Genesis. And one of the guys in the group said, well, my Bible notes say blah, 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 blah. And I remember telling him, yeah, but the notes aren't inspired. And he looked at me like I had committed blasphemy. And I have never forgotten it. I just remember, oh my God, it was so fucking funny. Like, there are people in
there
this
was our
world
F-bomb for the stream.
Unironically believe that the comments from publishers and other various theologians
translators,
are of equal weight.
Yeah, weird.
Like, all right.
Weird position, but sure. It is.
Wait, did I drop an F-bomb?
You did. You wasted it on that story. Now we don't get another one.
SMH.
All right. Schofield said, I think. Look, I'm not going to blame Kent for a bad Xerox copy. I'm just not. Yeah. I'm going to say Schofield said that there was a gap between verse 1 and verse 2. In the gap, they claim that Satan fell from heaven and the earth was destroyed. In that supposed gap, we are told to put the great ages that the evolutionists proclaim as incontestable fact. We are told that there was a, quote, pre-Adamic civilization that included all the dinosaurs. Wait, the civilization included all the dinosaurs? So, like, was there like a Triceratops mayor somewhere? That's pretty awesome.
Harness the power of Dino Riders.
I think I might now just decide to become a gap creationist if we can have a pre-Adamic civilization that included all the dinosaurs. It'd be awesome.
Wait, so that TV show Dinosaurs was real life?
Yes, apparently. It was just...
I was right, it is Flurke. I was right, it is Flurke.
Oh, it's fair. Okay, sorry about that. Okay. Well, so here's my defense.
Metopia.
I almost never know what language people are writing or names are in unless I recognize the name. So yeah, I just have to guess. Darth Horror says for $5, I remember starting my RNA world paper with "Hello, my name is Sarah." That is exactly how you should always start your papers, is by saying "Hello, my name is," then your name.
The Flintstones. It's like the Flintstones, Dinotopia, Dino
I gotta
Riders.
say, Dinotopia had some really great art.
Yeah, it did.
So
yeah, it did.
Yeah, like it was a little nonsensical here and there, but whatever. It had some really great art. Of like, one of my favorite bits was like this Egyptian style ruin, but there's like hadrosaurs instead of like pharaohs that are carved into the wall. It was really good. Anyway, In that supposed gap, we are told to put the great ages that evolution is proclaimed as incontestable fact. Yep. We are told that there was a pre-Adamic civilization that included all the dinosaurs. We are told that this civilization was destroyed when Satan fell from heaven. Here are... That sounds like such an epic fantasy series. Guys, someone out there... Right, someone out there, write the dinosaur civilization that ends in a cataclysmic event when Satan falls. Like,
and I will absolutely have Hugh Ross promote it.
Yes. There are a number of problems with that theory. Well, there we agree, Kent. Yes, I do agree with that. The first problem is it would be deceitful for God to, quote, hide millions of years in a gap like that and not make it known in other scriptures. I don't see it, but maybe. Secondly, it would be against the other scriptures in the Bible which indicate the gap of millions or billions of years couldn't be there. The Bible says a few verses later in Genesis 1:5, the evening and the morning were the first day. Look, you ever hear about someone say like, oh, hey, how long have you been at this job? And you say, it's the first day. No one means that that's the first day that ever existed ever.
For that company.
Right. Many modern translations...
Also,
sorry.
I would just like to note for anyone who would like a quick retort for someone who tries to argue that it says the first day, it does not in fact say that in Hebrew. In Hebrew, the literal word-for-word translation is day one.
There you go.
And that's what it says in Hebrew, Yom Echad, day one. It does not use the word Rishon, which means first or primary. It just says day one. So have that little nugget if you want to have a clap back on somebody.
There you go. Many modern translations of the Bible change the word the to try to overcome this conflict. Well, since the word in Hebrew doesn't seem to have been definite, I didn't hear that definite article, did I?
It was not definite. There was not the article D anywhere in that verse for that.
To try to overcome
it doesn't even say a first day. It just says day one.
Yep.
So he's wrong on both of those.
If there was a lot of time before the verse 5, then the verse 5 is telling a lie. No, Kent. That's not how that works. I just hate that Kent Hovind's take on the Bible is just as bad as his take on everything else. And it's like, this is supposed to be like your favorite book. You should know it better than this.
The fact that he's never once attempted to learn even rudimentary biblical Hebrew says way more about him.
Why would he? He has the KJV.
Or the Greek. He won't even do what most seminary theologians do and learn Greek.
But why would he? He has the KJV.
Greek and
it's obviously better than the original manuscripts. Who cares what Paul wrote?
Doctrine off of a translation that's questionable at best in many places.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just the case that creationism don't rely on the Bible directly. They just rely on an interpretation.
Well, that is one of the things. It's like there are other consistent interpretations that you can make that aren't young Earth creationism, and there you go. Another problem with the gap theory. Oh, it also says in Exodus 20:12 that God created the earth in 6 days. Great. Another problem with the gap theory is the fact that it is contradicting Romans 5, where the Bible says that there was no death until Adam sinned. Notice how all of his problems so far have just been, I don't like this because I think it contradicts the Bible. At no point has he given a scientific or evidentiary reason why the gap theory couldn't be true. Which is interesting in his doctoral thesis, that he wouldn't bother with any actual evidence. If there was some kind of pre-Adamic civilization with dinosaurs. Oh, and giant men, guys, we gotta add that in. So if you're taking notes for your gap theory fanfic, giant men.
Or whatever bringing fire, apparently.
Or whatever they want to put in the supposed gap, they had to die when Satan fell from heaven and earth. They had to die when Satan fell from heaven. Comma, there should be a comma, okay.
There should be a comma.
And the earth became without form and void, as they read in verse 2. Okay. Kent,
you know what?
Commas aren't optional.
I'm going to go look this up. I can't. When it says became, I'm going to go check that, because I have a weird feeling it does not say was, but I'm not to be sure.
Does Kent Hovind also believe that some dinosaurs breathe fire?
Yeah, he does seem to. Also, for $10...
Say verse 2?
For 10,
okay.
Yeah, for 10 beaver bucks, Genflurka says, you give Kent too much credit to understand that the Bible isn't in English. Yeah, no. I wouldn't be entirely shocked if Kent thought that, Paul wrote in English, and that Moses, who he thinks wrote Genesis, because he's dumb, wrote in English.
Okay, so in Hebrew, verse 2 begins with V'ha'aretz, which is and the earth, Haitah, tohu, vavohu. So that verb, Haitah, it's in the perfect tense, and it's third person feminine singular. So unless the perfect tense is used to describe something becoming and not was, then we got some issues.
Now, okay, my Hebrew isn't great, but I'm pretty sure it doesn't use the perfect for things that are currently changing. Because it's sort of the opposite of what the perfect is for?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because the root of the verb is to be, and if you're conjugating it like that, it just means and it was.
TC the Unbeliever asks, wasn't King James a disciple? Yeah, apparently. Another problem with the gap theory is the fact that it is contradicting Romans 5, where the Bible says that there was no death until Adam sinned. If there was some kind of
And everything changed when the Fire Nation attacked.
If there was some kind of pre-Adamic civilization with dinosaurs and giant men, or whatever they want to put in the supposed gap, they had to die when Satan fell from heaven and Earth became... Yeah, okay, we read that.
Doesn't say became.
The dinosaur
It says
fossils...
it was.
Yeah. The dinosaur fossils are still here on Earth.
Really?
Yes, that's true. Correct.
Really?
If we were playing the drinking game, we would have to take a drink for Ken Hovind getting something right. We have the skeletons, so they did die. Yes.
Oh, wait a minute. Like a few hours back, he said there is no record in the fossil record.
That's true. He did say that. Make up your mind, Ken. That was in this chapter, I believe.
I think Tesla Ranger nailed it. James was a disciple, and I guess he eventually became a king.
There you go. Problem solved. He just lived a really long time. He was like Adam. Living 900 years or whatever. Actually, it would have to have been a lot longer than that. It would have had to be like 1600 years, but whatever. The dinosaur fossils are still here now. Yeah, okay. That would mean the Bible is a lie in the New Testament where it says that there was no death until Adam sinned. I mean, unless it just wasn't talking about all death, because as Ganflurka points out, how did they eat if there was no death? Literally no death? They couldn't. Probably the most serious contradiction of the gap theory proponents must overcome is the plain testimony of Jesus himself. In Matthew 19:4, Jesus plainly said that the creation of Adam and Eve was the beginning. Was Jesus not aware of the gap, or was he lying to his followers? I absolutely do not believe in the gap theory. Again, when someone says something is the beginning, it doesn't have to mean the beginning of literally everything. Because here's the thing. Even in Genesis, the creation of Adam and Eve wasn't the beginning. That happened on day 6. So, was Jesus wrong? Or maybe, just maybe, could you, open things up to nuance? Or would nuance be unwelcome in this case?
Oh my god. Well, and I know this is like a very niche theological tangent, but also when, the penalty is given for, hey, see this one particular tree, don't eat that.
Mm-hmm.
Because dying, you will die. Well, they didn't drop dead on the spot. It took another several hundred years. So what kind of death exactly is Kent talking about? Because normative theologians in the Christian world will say that was a spiritual death.
Yep.
Not an immediate physical one. So he just cannot figure out whether he wants it to be literal death or spiritual death. Those are not like theologically congruent.
Yeah.
In his, I guess, quote, dissertation.
All right. Yeah. Goodness. If there is indeed a gap between Genesis 1:1 and 1:2 where Satan fell, it would be a gap. It would only be a few hours. Okay. Sure.
Okay. I can't.
I can't. This is because verse 5 says it was the first day. Yes.
The first day. No, it does not.
Yeah. And even if it did.
It does not say that.
You can start counting from, it's like, remember year 1, Kent? Wasn't the first year that ever existed. Just going to put that out there. There is no reason to try to put billions of years in the Bible's framework. Yes, there is. It's because if you want to believe in the Bible and you want to not be wrong, you're going to have to find a way to do that. Because there is evidently billions of years to be put somewhere. The theistic evolutionists...
do you want me to take over?
Sure.
Okay. The theistic evolutionists have said that 6 days of creation were actually epochs, ages, or eons of years. 2 Peter 3:8, period. A day with the Lord is 1,000.
Are epics actually a geological unit? Epics?
Yeah. So there is
Epoch.
Oh,
epoch. Yeah.
Did
So
he mean epoch and
epoch.
epic?
well.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he did say epic. He did mean epoch.
He meant
Damn
epoch.
it, Kent.
God, this is so bad.
Well,
Okay.
the plural of epoch is epochs, right? Or,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It would be
Second Peter 3:8, comma, period.
EPOCHS.
A day with the Lord is as 1,000 years, and 1,000 years is a day with the Lord, is a commonly used verse to justify this compromise.
I like
This
how
doctrine is silly.
all of his things they're not just verses to justify him. This is the weird. No, that's just the consistent teaching of Scripture. But when someone uses a different verse to come up with a different interpretation, that's just an excuse.
Thank you, Tesla Ranger, for picking up the space comma thing that I did not directly say, but I was absolutely thinking. Okay. This doctrine is silly if you actually analyze the argument. One reason the day-age theory would be silly is to look at the sequence in which God created all things. If you look at the sequence of creation, you would see why this argument is not reasonable or scientific. God created the planets on day 3 before he created the sun on day 4. If you think planets are going to... Plants.
Oh,
Thank you. Are going to survive for billions of years without the sun, you need to study more biology. I believe God did that on purpose to make us realize the days of creation were 24-hour days. Actually, they would be what, like 23-ish, 22 and a half-ish? If he goes by how fast he thinks the Earth is slowing down.
Oh yeah, he has weird things about that. Where like if the Earth were billions of years old, it would have been like spinning so fast it would fly apart or some crap like that.
Yeah, there would be like hurricane force winds all the time everywhere. He made the plants, herbs, trees, and grass on one day, and on the next day created the sun. Well, you know what, Kent? Let me just put an aside here. There was light before there were light givers. So there was a nebulous form of light before it was condensed into something that emanated it, called the sun. So if you wanted to, someone could troll you and say that there was plenty of ways that plants could survive without the sun if there was still light happening.
By the way, Darth War says that you sound like a female Hovind. Can you say water?
Water.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm intentionally doing my piss poor Hovind imitation
Yeah, that's not her
because I
normal
feel
voice.
it does not
That's
require
horrible.
me treating this with any seriousness whatsoever. Give their kisses. I hate how good your impression is. I feel like someone's talking at me. See, I just try to imagine that I'm on a stage at a church with the little clicker in my hand to advance my slides, you know?
And you have a
Which, by the
dinosaur
way,
tie on.
And I have a dinosaur tie on, which that tie is actually really freaking cool.
Yeah,
I will give him credit.
Kent Hovind's pre-prison ties were pretty on point.
Yeah, they were. Like, I would absolutely own dinosaur ties. I would wear them. And I would tie them in a Trinity knot because I can do that.
you can do that. Literally, no one will stop you.
And does the tie say, tell me what a dinosaur is? I don't know.
Well, yeah.
Well, I actually used to wear ties to work at one of my old jobs, just for funsies. And I did tie them in Trinity knots and like all sorts of other really cool, like obscure knot tyings, just because it's fun.
Nice.
I just don't have occasion to dress that formally, so
yeah.
I don't really wear ties that much, but I would. So, all right. The problem is further complicated when we realize that the insects to pollinate the plants were not created until day 5. The day-age theory is another unnecessary attempt by worried Christians to try and please the evolutionists. Let's look
Because
at
there was
another
no
analogy.
wind, apparently.
I just
There was
love
no
this.
wind, apparently.
This weird attribution of motive where it's like, oh, they wanted to make the atheist evolutionists happy with them. Why would they care? It couldn't possibly be that there's an honest attempt to actually make a reading of the Bible that's viable given the physical information that's available to these people. Like, that's not a possibility. They couldn't not possibly have an honest motive. It has to be because for some reason they're really, really standing atheists while being Christians. Just cause.
I think we
can quickly point out
a very like small break because oh my goodness.
I have to point out, like Kent previously said that you need to know more or need to learn more biology, but apparently he's not aware that some plants are not pollinated by insects; they are pollinated by wind.
By the wind, yeah.
So, yeah.
I'll tell you what, Vishanti, I'll take over for a little bit. because I want to
mean, I
get
was
through
just
as
going
much
to say,
as we can.
in general, we should probably take a break just so like we can refresh coffee and stuff like that.
Well, I know. That's why I said I'll take over because I still have plenty of water. I brought a gigantic
All
glass
right,
of
well,
water.
let's keep going. That's cool. Let's look at another analogy regarding the age of the Earth. Let's suppose you were to go out and find a sunken ship with a box of coins on that ship. When you open the box of coins, you find dates on the coins from all different ages. If there's a coin in the box from 1850, right away you're limited to say that the ship sank after 1850. If you find a coin in the box from 1820, it doesn't mean that the ship sank around 1820 because you also have an 1850 coin in there. You are limited to the youngest date in the box. It may well have sunk well after that, or it may have sunk well after that, but it cannot have sunk before that. If there is an 1850 coin in the box and it is not a forgery, then the ship didn't sink in 1849. The same analogy is true when trying to determine the age of the Earth.
No. Look, that's incredibly dumb. Okay, look. When the Earth began is not the same as when it, say, blew up. Because, spoiler alerts, currently, the Earth is still in one piece. It hasn't sunk or blown up or dissolved or anything like that, right? So, the analogy is, when was the ship built? It turns out coins are useless, but you might use something like the captain's logbook. What's the earliest date in there? That's probably not too long after the ship was built.
Weird.
This is just Kent saying, oh, hey, you know what? I got this ingrown hair a week ago, so I guess that's how old I am. Because this is a feature of my body that's only a week old. No. That's not how things work.
Wow.
It's literally
Okay.
They're also doing the same thing with Saturn, like saying, oh, the rings of Saturn can only be a few 100,000 years old. So that doesn't mean that Saturn is that old.
Here, I'll read a bit if you want.
Okay, no, I'm good. I was just saying if you
Okay.
needed to take a pee break or something. Okay. There are many different ways a scientist can try to test the age of the Earth. There are probably 500 or 600 ways to try to show the age of the Earth.
Where does he get this estimate? This is
butthole.
this is one of those instances where I think we need, what do you call those things? Citation. We're gonna need a citation, Kent. Why isn't my citation video working? It's not doing the stamp.
Or at least, or an Excel spreadsheet would be nice.
There it is. Okay, that was just OBS being a jerk.
Wow.
Yeah, OBS, way to go. We're gonna work on your pronunciation later.
Patak. Is it a hard K or a guttural? Okay, thank you.
It's guttural, but then it also goes to it's actually an affricative. It's a uvular affricative. Patak.
Okay, got it. It is a very difficult thing to do conclusively. If a few of the methods to date the Earth give old ages, but others give an age that is only a few thousand years old, as many as you do, then you have a dilemma. You must decide which you want to accept. No, you don't decide which you want to accept. You test it until you figure out where the errors are happening and the discrepancies. That's why you have things called controls.
Also, you keep in mind that old objects can have new structures on them. The orange tree in the backyard isn't as old as the oranges on it. That's just a thing. I know. It's older than the oranges. Crazy. Which, by the way, are still very, very sour. I'm hoping that changes.
Wow. Wow.
Wow.
Owen Wilson. Wow.
Oh, wow. Because many scientists want to believe evolution, they will, of course, select the few that seem to indicate great ages and ignore the evidences that indicate a young age of the Earth. No, Kent, that is not how scientists work. They do not operate like creationists. They do not start with a position and change stuff to fit their opinion. They change their opinion to suit the evidence. That is what science is. That is literally how it functions.
Yup.
Also, there's no evidence that indicates young age of the Earth. Sorry, not sorry. Taking only evidence that supports a preconceived idea and rejecting all evidence is not very intelligent or scientific. I agree.
Good job, Kent. You figured it out. Now just stop doing that.
I will have just a few of the ways.
You got an A you got an A in not self-awareness. That's totally
Oh,
no self-awareness at all.
Dapper, this is about to get real wild. I will give just a few of the ways to show that the Earth and the solar system are young. I have a list put out by Henry Morris of the Institute for
Oh
Creation
goodness.
Research.
Oh
A list
goody.
A list of 76 things that show the age of the Earth to be very young. Scroll the page.
Sorry, I
Thank you.
had to center myself before I scrolled.
Here are just a few of the evidences of a young Earth given by Dr. Morris, a doctor not in geology.
What is he even a doctor of? Is he actually a doctor of anything for real?
I actually have some Henry Morris books still left in my collection. I could go check, but I don't really want to right now.
Okay.
1. The influx of cosmic dust to the Earth indicates the Earth is less than 10,000 years old. No, Kent, it indicates that our planet is geologically active. Thanks for playing.
Subduction does not exist. Not a thing.
Does not exist.
There is no subduction, guys. You heard it here first.
Most of this dust has washed into the soil. The cosmic dust that comes from outer space contains a high percentage of nickel. Scientists have searched and searched for the nickel content in the Earth's crust. The amount of nickel is not great enough to account for billions of years. It only accounts for itself for 1,000 years. It's almost like subduction is a thing and erosion is a thing.
I am not convinced that cosmic dust has significant amounts of nickel. I'm gonna go ahead and say iron and silicates is more likely.
I quickly looked up Henry Morris on Wikipedia, and it says that he has a bachelor in civil engineering.
Weird.
Well, in creationist speak, that's basically a PhD.
Yeah, well, I mean, remember, it's a doctorate in science, so he must be a scientist. Like JM Truth has a master's in science.
I have a degree in homeopathy from Christian Tech.
Oh no. Okay. It only accounts for several thousand years. Quadruple, quintuple space. For instance, the influx of helium-4 into the atmosphere. Shouldn't there be like a hyphen there, helium-4?
Actually, I'm not sure what the rule is when you actually write out the entire element name, so I don't really know. Because I always just do fair. H with superscript 4.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah.
Into the atmosphere indicates something less than 175,000 years. Well,
What?
Kent, I would not say that's an argument in your favor.
What about the
It's
outflow
not like
of helium?
is being created.
Okay.
Number 2.
Sure.
Number
also,
2.
helium is very, very reactive, so it doesn't tend to stick around very much.
It loves to react to things.
Someone in the live chat says that he also has a PhD in hydraulic engineering.
Oh, okay.
PhD.
Well, that might be.
All right.
Excuse me. Sorry.
I mean, I have heard that he wrote a conventional and well-received hydraulics textbook. So.
I mean, I'm sure he's a perfectly cromulent engineer, but he's not a geologist.
Yes. I'm sure he embiggened the field of hydrology or whatever.
Hey, man, that's really cool. Help us build more sound infrastructure. Thank you.
Yeah.
I could start doing this there's a channel on YouTube called Chills, and it's one of the most cringy narrators. And his whole cadence of speaking just makes me like want to gouge my ears out. So I'm thinking about giving Kent the same treatment, but it would be painful because it's like number 2, radiometric decay produces helium, which has to escape into the atmosphere.
Which first, it doesn't have to escape into the atmosphere. It can undergo chemical reactions in whatever rock it was released in. Because what's one of the most reactive elements in the world again? Is it helium? Pretty sure it's helium.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Hydrogen, helium.
Oh wait, no, helium.
Whatever.
Yeah, he did say helium, not hydrogen. I'm thinking hydrogen. Anyway, yeah. Hydrogen. Well,
Because helium's a noble gas.
but the other thing is helium also escapes the atmosphere. So unless you would take into account the helium escaping from the atmosphere, you can't just measure the content of helium in the atmosphere, assume no escape, and then come up with an answer. Sorry guys, I was thinking hydrogen. Like I said, I'm bad at chemistry. That's why I don't talk about chemistry.
Atmoplane.
Good goodness.
Thank you, Ken Flicka, for knowing who Chills is and also knowing that, wow, it's bad. Okay.
Yep, I was wrong. I was thinking hydrogen when I said helium. I'm sorry, guys.
I knew what you meant.
No, yeah, I know. But I was still wrong, and I
But helium
Unlike
still
Kent, I'm
escapes
going to
into
admit
space, yeah.
that I'm wrong. And yeah, helium does escape into space.
It does.
Like hydrogen.
Okay. By measuring the helium content in the atmosphere, we conclude that there could not have been radioactive decay for billions of years because there isn't enough helium in the atmosphere.
Okay, sure. Because that wouldn't have reached a steady state at some point.
Nope. The percentage of helium in the atmosphere indicates a very young Earth. Evolutionists are searching for a way for the helium to escape into outer space to eliminate this evidence for a young Earth.
What do you mean? We can observe it escaping.
Not only can we observe
if
it,
I'm not mistaken.
It takes...
Yeah.
So far, no method has been
goodness.
found.
So here's the thing about that. Yeah, Angel Rivera points out that it was PhD in hydraulic engineering. Yes. So anyway, the thing about helium, right? So to escape from Earth, what you need is enough speed to reach escape velocity so that you don't come back, because you're not going to get into orbit because nothing's going to, accelerate you perpendicular to the surface of the Earth. Whatever. So if an atom at normal temperatures available to atoms on Earth can reach escape velocity, then we know they have to escape to space sometimes. So all you need to do is say, okay, how fast does this kind of thermal energy make a helium atom? Is that fast enough to exceed escape velocity at the heights at which helium atoms exist? Because remember, escape velocity goes down as you go up. The answer is just yes. It's not even something you need calculus for. That's just algebra. Now, you need calculus to figure out things like the escape velocity in the first place, but if you have that already known, that's all it takes. Here's the mechanism for helium escaping Earth. It gets hot. That's it. That's all it takes.
It's almost like heat and motion are somehow related in a way we don't fully understand.
Actually, we understand it pretty well. That's why we know.
That's a joke. It's almost like, because, heat and motion and,
Oh, Kristen Mills had 103 fever. I'm assuming that is freedom units and not communism units, because you'd be very dead if it were communism.
Yes.
But take care of yourself.
Blood boiled.
That's a pretty high fever,
Yeah.
I'm not normally a big fan of getting rid of fevers, but 103, oof.
Oof. Your body's trying to kill something very dead.
Not that I'm giving you medical advice. Just seek out a doctor if you need one, but take care of yourself.
And seek out a medical doctor,
not someone who has
civil engineering doctor.
I'm a chiropractor, and if I crack your back the right way, maybe it'll bring down your fever. No, it won't.
Well, that's because the angels told me to do it this way.
That's an actual thing in chiropractic.
I know.
And it's insane. Okay. Another evidence that the Earth is young.
Okay. Another evidence that the Earth is young is the fact that there are still meteors and comets flying through space. We know that comets and meteors break up and decay as they pass through the solar system. We have never seen one formed that is get bigger or larger.
Okay.
We've seen many break up and fall apart. As comets circle around the solar system, they come close to the Earth or different planets.
True.
There was only one planet, Kent.
Right? How many planets are there?
Of which there is no life on the other planet. The gravitational forces of these planets break pieces off the comets and they fragment or fall apart. Only if they get close enough, which most of them don't.
You gotta go within the Roche limit of that planet, which is pretty close. That's not very common, but it does happen. We saw it happen on Jupiter. We've seen it happen on
Shoemaker
Earth.
Levy 9.
Yep.
That was so cool.
Very.
Right. How long could a comet circle through our solar system before it would disintegrate or run into a planet? Several astronomers have said that 10,000 years is the longest a comet could survive going through our solar system time and time again, like Halley's Comet does every 70 years.
Yeah, for short period comets. I think it is.
Also, some astronomers.
And some. Who are these some?
Who,
great
scientist named Weaselworth.
If this figure is correct, and why do we still have comets? This is literally the astronomical version of if we evolved from apes, why are there still apes?
Yeah. Because comets, the comets we see now aren't all the comets that have ever existed or that currently exist. There are other comets.
Weird.
That's all it takes.
If this figure, so the fact that we have comets at all indicates that the Earth is still very young. No, it does not. Scientists that analyze this problem have come up with the comet bank theory. They speculate that somewhere in outer space there is a bank of comets. Every once in a while,
I
something
wonder
will
what the interest rate is on comets this time of year.
we'll check some out and distribute them throughout the universe. I'm making fun of them, of course. This is not exactly what they believe. They say that the comets are supplied from another source, but they don't know what that source is. But we keep getting comets because of this comet bank. When did we discover the Oort cloud?
So I guess it depends
Or
on what
at
you
least
mean by
I would
discover.
say
But
discover. I would say, when was that first proposed as a mechanism for how, our comets?
I don't know.
Or
I'm pretty sure it
generated.
was sometime in like the mid 20th century, but I don't actually know.
Because he's acting like that's a new idea that just happened. Like
Oh,
right
hey,
before he
Ugly
wrote
German
this.
Truth says, who, remember, it's just someone. So someone says, as of January 1st, 2022, there are 4,905 confirmed exoplanets in 3,629 planetary systems, with 808 systems having more than one planet. Nice.
Hear that? 808. The very existence of short period comets is one of the proofs of a young Earth. No, it's proof that there are short period comets.
Mhm.
Thanks. Another evidence that the Earth is young is fact that the Earth's spin is gradually diminishing. He stopped numbering these.
Well, look,
He
he
stopped
had
at 2.
Ken has trouble counting, so we'll give it to him.
I wonder if this is more supporting quote evidence for 2, and he's going to throw a 3 at us at some point. Like, we'll stay tuned to find out.
Or he's still busy with the number 1. He's
Actually,
still
we
busy
should
with
probably
number
He
cut
did
it
go
here.
to 2.
So we only have 12 pages
Oh,
left.
really?
We did more than 12 pages today, so I think we only have one more episode
Alright,
left.
let me finish at least this paragraph.
I figure another evidence is a nice place to start back up because
Okay.
it's just a slightly different topic. So, Ness or Vishanti, do either of you have something that you want to plug?
Yes, tonight on the NASA Bunker 33 channel at 6:30 p.m. Pacific time, we will be doing a tribute stream to Schrodinger's cat. And if you would like to jump in and participate and say a few words, or if you just want to come pop in the audience, you're more than welcome to do so. I am going at this moment to fetch a link to our channel so that I do not end up giving you information that you can't follow up on.
Yes.
And let me go get the thumbnail right there. Ha.
All right.
Copy link.
You can just put that straight into the chat if you want to.
Boop.
So yes, in case you guys didn't hear, Schrodinger's cat passed away at a fairly young age. I think he was 46?
51.
51? Okay.
46?
I don't know.
Oh.
I thought he was in his
figure this
40s, but maybe I'm wrong. But he was definitely, it was very much young enough for this to be a big surprise to everyone. I don't actually know what happened, so please don't ask. You might
46.
want to.
You were correct.
46? Okay.
I don't know where I got 51 from.
I don't know where I got 46 from, to be honest. So,
It is 46.
well, and so if you want to, do check that out. It's a pretty big tragedy. So, and I know that some of my audience were also some of his audience. So, as far as this channel go, or Ness, did you have anything?
I have learned that Jackson Witt will be debating Otangelo this evening too.
Yes,
So
on one of
yes,
MC
and-
Toon's channel. But it's not his main channel.
Is
It's,
it on
But I have the link, so
Splatoon?
maybe I can add the link.
what was that, Vishanti?
Is it on the Skatoon show?
Yes, I think it is on that one.
Okay.
So that'll be coming
Oh,
up.
yeah.
And Nessa, if you could link
Ugly
that.
German Truce, I really hate breaking this to you. Yeah, Schrodinger's cat did suddenly pass away this week, and there have been some tribute streams and some various memorials going around. So sorry to kind of have to.
Yeah, that's. There was an emergency stream on his channel, and that's how I found out.
Yeah.
Just after that. So.
As far as I know, the family is not aware or has not shared the reason for that sudden death.
So yeah, please do check that out. Because that's it's too young, and he was an important part of a lot of the sort of debunking community. Did a lot of really good flat Earth stuff and stuff like that. So
yeah.
As far as this channel goes, though, let's see. Tuesday should be Kent with Bent. Thursday should be the final episode of the Andrew Snelling series on his Talk About the Flood, where he just blatantly lies demonstrably. And then Friday should be hopefully the last one of these readings of the dissertation. In fact, I might just make it the last. Like, we're just going to plow through it, and even if this takes us 2.5 or 3 hours, I'm just going to keep going. And then the next Saturday after that should be the actual award show for the Cambrian Bunny, which means the reason that you're seeing the Cambrian Bunny trophy in the background on this stream is because voting is still open for that. Head over to my Cambrian Bunny nominations stream, open up the description, and you will find links so that you can go vote. You just have to hit like on a little 10-second black screen, no sound video, and that will register your vote for the 4 different categories. We have worst argument, worst use of the human language, worst behaved, and best overall creationist. So please do go ahead and vote on that if you have opinions. And I think that's it. So later, everybody.
I do have one question to you, Dipper.
Go ahead.
I talked to Otangelo at one point, and I pointed out that he changed the topic of, you debated him on whether birds are dinosaurs, right? And
well,
he basically.
I don't think he thinks that he changed the topic.
Right. He claimed that him talking about the
basically nothing but feathers.
Thing,
yeah.
Well,
he thinks that was.
That you.
Sorry.
Yeah. He claimed that you agreed to talk about that.
Oh, I did.
Feathers?
I did agree to talk about feathers, and I did talk about feathers and why it's irrelevant.
Oh, right. Oh, okay.
That's why I talked about feathers. Because, look, if you say, hey, I want to talk to you about earthworms and, U.S. geopolitical interactions with Russia, I'll say, okay. And then I'll say, first, earthworms are stupid to talk about during this, so we won't talk about it very much. But there you go. I just talked about earthworms. Because whether birds are dinosaurs, talking about feather evolution doesn't help you there. So anyway, Otangelo, sorry, if you want to talk about one main topic and focus on an irrelevant other topic, I'll mention the irrelevant other topic just to say that it's irrelevant. We're also going to end the poll. We got a lot of votes, and most people said yes, get book title. So, Kent,
HAV get title.
Kent, you're going to need to get that title for us if you ever watch this. All right, guys, thank you very much. I really appreciate everyone coming. And I'll talk to y'all later. I just want to take a minute to thank my patrons and channel members, especially those pledging $20 or above. Bob Knob, Bent Hovind, Denny525, Ian Chen, John Ackerman, Landon Knoll, Lingwei, Sphincter of Doom, The Venerable Bede, and Patrick Dennis. My channel members and patrons help keep the lights on here at Casa Dino, and they also help make this channel possible, because without them, you'd be lucky to get 1 video a week out of me, never mind 3. If you'd like to support either as a patron or a channel member, there are links below. Also, if a monthly pledge or even an annual pledge isn't right for you, there are other ways you can support the channel. There's a merch store and an Amazon wishlist. And of course, if none of that's right for you, just hitting like, sharing this video, and commenting really helps out a lot. Thank you.